The gospel for the fourth Sunday of Lent comes from Luke's gospel. It's the beautiful story Jesus told about the prodigal son, a father who had two sons. And the story that I want to share with you that touches on that story, because it touches on the love of a father for his son, it comes from, it's a very old story. It was written by a Greek, Homer, and it happens to be the first book Father Mike read when he was about in 5th or 6th grade that ignited his imagination and led him to love stories. It's a tiny part of that much larger story called the Iliad by Homer. And in this particular fragment, it's about the vengeance of Achilles, one of the great Greek generals. So let's listen to the story. The Iliad, a book written very long ago, narrates adventures of every kind. And here's one of the more beautiful ones. There was a very brave and powerful warrior, very fast and invincible, that means unbeatable, whose name was Achilles. He was a general of the Greek armies who wanted to conquer the great city of Troy. The king of Troy was called Priam. He was a very wise old man, greatly loved by all the Trojans. Of all his children, there was one, his oldest, named Hector, who was like the king himself. He was like the king when the king was a young man. Hector's father placed all his hopes in his son. Hector was clearly his favorite. Hector and Achilles hated each other profoundly. In the hearts of the two generals, the desire for vengeance grew. Achilles' hatred surpassed all bounds when Hector killed his best friend, Patroclus. What happened was Achilles refused to fight Hector because he was upset with the other Greek generals. So his dear friend and servant, Patroclus, stole Achilles' armor. And so when Hector came out to meet him, he thought he was fighting Achilles, but he wasn't. And Hector prevailed and killed Patroclus. Achilles loved Patroclus more than if he were his own brother. One day, what never should have happened did happen. The great Achilles and Hector confronted each other. When the two were exhausted, Achilles won and Hector lost his life. As was the custom, Achilles carried Hector's body back to his tent near the beach where the Greek fleet was moored. Poor Priam was told that his beloved son Hector had died and that Achilles had carried his body off as if it were a trophy. Added to this loss was yet another pain. Priam would not be able to bury his son with all the honors that so brave a general and warrior deserved. What was Priam to do? He had an idea. With all a father's love, he would go to see Achilles in his tent and ask him to return Hector's body. When Priam found himself before his enemy, he knelt at Achilles' feet. He embraced the warrior's knees with tears in his eyes and said, "Achilles, I recognize all the damage and suffering we Trojans have caused you. A short time ago, Hector killed Patroclus, your best friend. If you wanted, You could kill me right now, but I ask you to grant me the greatest of favors. Return the body of my son to me." Achilles was moved to see how much Priam loved Hector. And so Achilles replied, "King Priam, eat with me now, and spend the night here in my tent. At dawn, I will order that Hector's body be wrapped in silks, and you can take his body with you, the body of this son you loved so much. You can take him back to Troy." So that's our story, provided by Homer. Some reflection questions that I'd ask you to consider, to ponder, are these. How does Priam show his deep love for his son, even after his son has died? What effects does Priam's courage and love for his dead son Hector have on the great Greek general Achilles? Take a moment and think about someone who loves you very much. How does that person's love make you feel? Consider this. How do we experience God's love for us? Might we discover God's love for us in the love of parents, family, and friends? Take a moment now to recall God's love for you and thank God for the gift of that love. Take another moment to think about a person in your life who helps you feel loved, and thank God for the gift of their friendship in your life. And finally, during our Lenten journey, ask God for the gift of discovering more of the ways you can love others through your kindness, your forgiveness and mercy, your helping someone else when they are in need.